Well, hello, this is Donna Reiners, and I'm thinking about you. And today's topic is about the shame and the pain of guilt. The shame and the pain of guilt. And one thing that I have been healed of is shame and the pain of guilt. I don't know. Do you have any shame? Do you have any pain? Do you know? Do you know by your internal behavior if perhaps you're living in a way that lends itself to feeling guilty all the time and then feeling ashamed because you feel guilty? Now, before I go farther, I'm letting you know that this particular video with dealing with the emotions, I'm also going to move into a space where I'm talking about your internal world where there is peace, where you have a creator who lives inside of you and not outside of you. If you are one who thinks that you have to invite somebody into your heart in order to know them, meaning God, I just want you to know that this particular video is coming to you from a space where that is not my belief. Why? Because you were born with a design inside of you, with someone leading that charge inside of you to create you. The very breath of your vitality is from the one who lives inside you. It is intimate, it is personal, it is not religious, and you are not just some energy in the on the planet, and that's it. Like you dissipate and that's it, you're over, you're gone. So that's where I'm coming from as I share with you what's in my heart. So guilt, shame, and pain. I lived from the place of guilt the majority of my life. And let me tell you when it became the most pronounced. The most pronounced that I had guilt and shame was when I entered into a relationship with God in a religious setting. The religious setting lent itself for me feeling guilt and shame all the time. Because no matter how many times I would go to that front leader to get some kind of prayer or some kind of deliverance or some kind of release, it never ever really touched the spot. And if it did touch the spot, it only did it momentarily. And it wasn't that long before it came back. That guilt, that shame, that pain. Why? Because guilt and shame and pain isn't a spiritual issue. It isn't just a soul issue either. Your body has memory. My body has memory. And it can go all the way back to conception. That is the amazingness of our body. See, God doesn't keep the score, but our body keeps a score on every record, on every moment that we're alive on the planet. And when we can have wisdom to identify patterns that we're living from that go on and on and on and then start over again, whether it be a seasonal thing, like every Christmas, maybe you shut down, or every Thanksgiving, maybe you shut down, or maybe you're from another place in the world where you don't even celebrate, for instance, Thanksgiving. But you have a reoccurring guilt that comes and just kind of niggles at the back of your head, and you don't know where it came from. I guarantee there's some place either in the womb or you were born with something within that triggers you over and over. Maybe it's a behavior of a grandparent or a great grandparent or 1,000 grandparents that came through you cellularly. You know, science talks about genetics. Science talks about how you can have something passed into you from a parent. Well, those parents were passed into from their parents and their parents and their parents and so on and so on. Why would the emotions be any different? There are some things that you have guilt and pain in that if you were born with those things, that, and you can't seem to shake them, but you've had them for as long as you can remember. Maybe you've literally felt that kind of shame, that pain, that kind of guilt since you were a little person. More than likely, you were born with that. Or like me, I know that I had shame and pain and rejection growing up because of how I grew up, because of the outright rejection that I faced. So I know that. And no matter what I did over the years, it wouldn't go away. But when I entered into a relationship with a God who loves me unconditionally, but I entered into the doctrinal belief in a religious system that told me I had to do something in order to be free from my pain and guilt and shame, meaning I had to do something spiritual. That's where my boat got capsized. Because for 20 years, I cried out from a pure place inside, from a passionate place inside, from a place that knew that God loved me with everything. And I knew I had fallen in love with this God. But that shame, that guilt, that pain, that rejection, it niggled at the back of my head like a pot simmering on the back of the stove. Let me tell you something. I remember a time laying on the floor in a church, just crying because I was in so much torment from what I've mentioned. Just in torment. I thought, why isn't there more freedom? Why is it I can't be free? Why is it all these people are free? Of course, the appearance of freedom doesn't mean people are really free, right? And I remember the voice within me saying, I have some tools I'm going to bring you that brings you freedom. And I thought, oh my, okay. Why? Because I was accustomed to this relationship where I had an actual thought and voice, and we would talk. So I knew that was the voice of the one who lived inside of me. And so I thought, okay, I can go with that. But do you know, I waited a year. It was a year. And I had opportunity to go to a workshop that was probably 8 hours away. And in that workshop, I received some tools that helped me identify body trauma, that helped me know, hey, look, this does not have to be like this. That began a journey of identifying things within me that were not spiritual. No, they were from physical body trauma, or they were from verbal abuse, or even nonverbal abuse. And as they got to be identified, I had greater and greater clarity. And then continuing moving forward, more tools came into my hands. Why? Because I'm attracting freedom. I'm attracting the opportunity to actually and literally be free and not just be spiritual about everything that would come down the pipe for me, you see. So many people make every single matter spiritual when the body does keep the score. And yes, there are times with intention, with prayer, with trust, with faith, that those things can supernaturally dissipate. But do you know, along the way to where you're going, there is no shame, there is no guilt in taking a tool to help yourself become free. As a matter of fact, I seem to remember a passage inside that book that many of us like to read, where one of the leaders was told, hey, drink a little wine for your stomach. Do this for that. And so even though the work of Jesus was more in the supernatural area, Do you know if you really read in those passages, you'll see where he gave action steps to people to complete the entire deal. So action is many times required, not works, not I have to do this to get this. That's not it. It's just the wisdom of this relationship and this interaction with the one who lives inside of us that we have so much trust for that we can be shaking the hands and going, oh, yes, I'll come with you. Oh, yes, I'll come. Oh, yes, I'm happy to go that direction. Oh, yes, I'll go. Oh, yes, let's do this. Why? Because we're living life together. It's not a God who lives on the outside of you, living life and going, do this, do that, do this, do that, like a puppeteer. No, it's a God within, living life with you. And let me tell you something, the God within wants you to live a long time, and he wants you to live healthy. He wants you to live in such a manner that you're sane, that you have clarity, that you bear fruit in your life, that you're not in torment. Torment is not fruit of a healthy relationship with yourself or a healthy relationship with the God who lives inside of you. So as I move forward, identifying and then getting tools to remove those things literally from me, from my organ system, identifying false belief systems, meaning lies, identifying times when I made these absolute declarative vows of this or that or the other. And all those things were like blockages inside of me, inside my energetic system, that wouldn't allow healing and wholeness to come forth. So I just want to offer to you, if you have places where you know you're trapped and you can't tell anybody because you feel guilty, because you're a mature person, so you figure you should have it all together by now. You don't have to have it all together. We partner together to become freer, to see our freedom, to act on our own freedom, the freedom that has already been laid out for us, so that we can move forward in a torment-free zone, in safe to make the changes, safe to mature, safe to find identity, safe to develop ourselves from this place of love instead of torment, and safe to move forward with a lifetime in front of us of living and moving and breathing and having our being inside the one who lives and moves and breathes inside of us. That's an offer from the one who lives inside to humanity. To humanity. And so I have developed worksheets. I've developed opportunity. I've worked with especially women, but men too. I've worked with especially women over the years to help them identify their own issues and get free from their own issues. Because many times we want to shift blame because of our parents, and we want to shift blame because of that boss, or we want to shift blame because of that spouse, or we want to shift blame because of our bloodline, or we want to shift blame because of nation, or we want to shift blame because of the group, or whatever. When honestly, we have our own responsibility, and we partner with others to help us move forward in this beautiful relationship with ourselves and with God and community, to exercise freedom so that we can all move free together intentionally. So I was thinking about different times in the year when we are faced with trauma, and I want to share a few things with you. One is, let's say there is some kind of storm. Let's say there's a storm of some sort, a hurricane, a tornado, multiple hurricanes, multiple tornadoes, multiple storms, multiple power outages. And even though you may know they're coming, when they come, they cause great stress. They cause, sometimes they cause a lack of trust, especially if you have a family to feed and all of a sudden you can't feed them. Or let's say you have no gasoline and you can't get out to go to the grocery store. And if you did go to the grocery store, what if their power's out anyway and there isn't anything there for you to get? Listen, these are real things that happen in real time. Those produce what's called body trauma. They produce fear. And so let's say after all that's resolved over weeks or months, and then let's live our life, and then what if you have a power outage out of the blue, and for whatever reason that day your body triggers you and you move into the same exact emotional response that you had years ago when you faced that strange, odd weather? That is an example of a body trauma. That's an example of something that can be identified, where you more than likely will have some kind of lie attached to it, like, oh my God, I'll never get out of here, which could be like a vow, an action plan that says, oh my God, what's going to happen to us? You could identify those issues surrounding it so that that triggering isn't there anymore in the future when you face the same situations again. Or let's say, I'll give you an example of my life. When I was young, my mom was sick. And in that sickness, we had a last Christmas together. And in that last Christmas that we had together, I remember telling my dad that I didn't really want anything. All I wanted was the family to get together. Well, you know, when you're 18, you want more than just a family getting together. But I was always an old soul and more mature than I was supposed to be, probably. But that's what I asked for. And do you know what happened? That's what I got. That's what I got from my dad. I got nothing. And do you know, not only was it the last Christmas we had with our mom, which was devastating alone, but not receiving anything from my dad, nothing, was also traumatic for my young soul, for my heart, to not get a present on the last Christmas I would spend with my mom. Guess what happened from there? Moving forward, after my mom passed the next year, I'm already in a season of strong change because we had moved from the house I grew up in. So there's that trauma. We threw a lot of things away from the house I grew up in because there wasn't room for it where we were going. And that house the new house became a temporary lodging because we ended up moving from there as well. But my dad went in something called shutdown. Just a shutdown with himself, a shutdown with me, a shutdown with everyone. And his behavior was odd and strange in the areas where he wasn't shut down. But relationally, he was shut down here because he didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to help me. And so I was one confused woman at 18. I was confused. I was heartbroken. I was sad. I was in grief. And at the same time, I didn't want to stay there. So I went ahead and started school right after my mom passed and just kept moving as if nothing happened. And do you know, in the course of all that time, with Dad not providing any kind of gift, with it being the last Christmas with Mom, with it being a very sobering time, and then finding other things out in the family that I had not known before that were kind of devastating. Do you know that after that, Christmas was just never the same? It wasn't a happy time. It was just, we can have Christmas, not have Christmas, whatever. Present, doesn't matter. Even though I'm a giver and I love to give, and I love gifts, now especially, for years, I didn't recognize that I could care less whether we had Christmas or not. And when I discovered it, when I was able to remove those roots, when I was able to forgive my dad, which is for me, not God, for me, when I was able to really forgive myself for not understanding my dad. I forgive my dad for not taking the time to understand me. The self-centeredness I felt like he lived in at the time. Of course, he was without a spouse after 36 years, so, he needed a minute to be a human and not just a dad. When I was able to really work through those things, which didn't take as long as you would think. Do you know, I enjoy Christmas. Now, I will tell you, I don't decorate. We didn't really grow up decorating. We had a little plastic tree we pulled out of the attic every year, So for us, it was simple. But I do look forward to Christmas. I love to buy gifts for people. And I love to receive gifts for people. But I didn't for many, many years. Why? Because that was shut down from that one Christmas that defined a couple of decades. I want to encourage you in your journey. Maybe the holidays are coming for you. Maybe you already know, when the holidays come, I'm kind of blue. I'm kind of sad. No reason for it. Maybe something's unexplained and you don't know. All those things. I just want you to know that you can know. That you can identify patterns in your world. And you can release yourself from those patterns so you could have a new approach in life, in love, in living. That you can have a future different from your past. That's been my tagline for probably 20 years. Let your future be different from your past. Because you really can have a different future. And if your past was defined by trauma, if your past was defined by lots of rules and regulations, if your past was defined by circumstances that were out of your control, more than likely you have some things that you get triggered in today. And you may not even realize you're being triggered. Maybe somebody is reinforcing your emotions. They come into agreement with your emotional status of sadness or grief or pain or anger so quickly that you just feel like it's okay. Listen, anything that brings you a lack of peace is not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay to be sad for years. It's not okay to be in grief for years. It's not okay to be angry for years. Those things are not okay because they wreak havoc on your central nervous system. They wreak havoc in your hormones. They wreak havoc on your mind. They wreak havoc in your immune system. So getting peace instead of growing acclimated to pieces is what the direction is that I would love to help you with. Because I am living proof that you can be free enough to move forward and get so far free that you can't even smell the stench of what happened across the way before you crossed over. So I want you to start writing some things down. I want you to pay attention to your emotions. Pay attention when you're around someone and they're sad, so you become sad. Maybe you are being influenced in a way that you need to close your gates in and not be influenced by. Or maybe you're the influencer. You walk in the house and all of a sudden everything's in chaos. Well, maybe you're the chaos maker and you don't know it. Or maybe you are moving into a place where you let other people be chaos, so you become chaos too. These are things you can stop and you can identify and you can move forward in a different direction and have that behind you. So I bless you. This is Donna. I hope this was encouraging to you. I hope it helps you to pause and consider what's happening in your private world where nobody sees and nobody knows. And I will say one other thing. There are sometimes measurements, well, actually all the time, there are measurements inside our bodies energetically that can show you your patterns and show you where you need help to support your body until you get to a place where your body can support you. I bless you. I'm happy to help you with any of these things. It would be my honor. Until soon, this is Donna. Oh, and by the way, if you made it this far, most every month, most months, I have either one-on-one for 5 days in a row where I do coaching at no cost, or I have a discovery time, a workshop that's 5 days in a row where we work through emotional issues to help you become free. I do this for those in this group at no cost. Those are things you just sign up for, and we talk about and see what the scoop is, and just make sure it's a good fit for you, for the direction I take. And then that's at no cost to you. We not only have a lot of fun, but we discover a lot about you. You get to discover you in a deeper way, and you get to get tools inside you so you can move forward in your life and your love and your living. Anyway, I bless you. Let me know if that's something you would like to be part of, because I would love to help you move forward in life. Until soon, this is Donna. Bye.